Have you ever eaten tofu thinking you were doing something good for your body? Maybe even protecting your kidneys, without ever questioning if the way you eat it could be silently harming you. Instead, I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and I need to tell you something most people are never warned about. Especially after the age of 60, your kidneys are no longer as resilient as they once were, and some of the healthy habits you've trusted for years can quietly turn into daily damage without pain, without obvious symptoms until the problem has already gone too far. What makes this truly dangerous is that kidney damage doesn't show up early, it builds in silence, and by the time you notice swelling, fatigue, or changes in your urine, a large part of your kidney function may already be compromised. But here's the part that could change everything for you starting today, in the next few minutes. I'm going to show you the most dangerous tofu combinations that put hidden stress on your kidneys, and more importantly, how to eat it the right way, so your body can finally feel lighter, safer, and protected again. Let's start with something that feels completely harmless. A simple bowl of tofu with green onions. It's light, it's clean, it's something many people, especially after 60, turn to as a safe daily meal. No grease, no heavy seasoning, nothing that looks like it could possibly harm you. In fact, most people eat it believing they're doing the right thing, protecting their bones, reducing pressure on their body, and making a smart, healthy choice. But here's where perception and reality quietly separate. Because inside your body, this combination doesn't behave the way you think it does. Green onions contain compounds known as oxalates. And when oxalates meet the calcium naturally present in tofu, they bind together in a way that blocks your body from absorbing that calcium effectively. Now, on the surface, that might not sound serious. But your body's not passive, it adapts. When it doesn't get enough calcium from food, it doesn't simply accept the deficiency. Instead, it begins to compensate by pulling calcium directly from your bones to maintain balance in your bloodstream. This is not something you feel immediately. There's no pain, no warning signal. But over time, this silent shift begins to weaken your bones from within. And here's the part that most people never realize. That displaced calcium doesn't just disappear. It circulates in your blood, and eventually your kidneys are forced to step in and filter it out. Day after day, meal after meal, your kidneys take on an extra workload. They were never meant to handle processing excess minerals that should have been properly absorbed in the first place. From a clinical perspective, this creates a slow but persistent burden. Studies in aging populations have shown that calcium imbalance, especially when combined with reduced kidney efficiency, can accelerate both bone loss and renal stress simultaneously. In simple terms, what you thought was helping your bones may actually be weakening them, while quietly exhausting your kidneys at the same time. I remember a patient who stayed with me long after our consultation ended. She was in her early 70s, disciplined, careful with her diet, and proud of the fact that she had eliminated most unhealthy foods from her life. Every day she ate tofu, often with green onions, because she believed it was one of the best things she could do for her body. But when her test results came back, something didn't add up. Her bone density had dropped significantly. She wasn't expecting that. She looked at me confused, almost searching for a mistake in the report, and said, "But I've been eating clean for years. How could this happen?" That moment is something I see more often than people realize. Not because people are careless, but because they're doing the right thing in the wrong way. And that's what makes it so dangerous. When a bad habit causes harm, it's easier to correct. But when a good habit is quietly working against you, it can continue for years without ever being questioned. And the body doesn't forget repetition. Small imbalances repeated daily become long-term damage. It's like a slow drip of water against stone. You don't notice it at first, but over time it changes the structure completely. Now, I want you to think about your own routine for a moment. Have you ever chosen a meal simply because it felt healthy? Have you ever repeated that choice every day, trusting that consistency alone would protect you? If so, you're not alone. Most people believe that eating the same good foods regularly is the safest path. But as we've just seen, it's not just what you eat, it's how those foods interact inside your body that truly matters. And this is where the deeper issue begins to unfold. Because tofu is not the problem. Green onions are not the problem. The problem is the interaction, the chemistry that happens beneath the surface, beyond what you can see or taste. Once you understand this, something shifts. You stop looking at food as isolated items and you start seeing combinations patterns and long-term effects. And that awareness alone can change the way your body responds over time. But here's the unsettling truth. If this combination already sounds surprising, what comes next is even more deceptive. Because the next pairing doesn't just look healthy, it's often recommended as one of the best combinations you can eat. And yet inside your body, it can create something far more damaging than simple mineral imbalance. But knowing this alone is not enough, because there's another factor far more dangerous that most people completely overlook. If the previous combination already made you pause, this next one is even more deceptive because it looks like the perfect healthy meal. A plate of tofu paired with spinach is something you'll find in countless diet plans, health blogs, and even hospital menus. It's clean, plant-based, nutrient-rich. Everything modern nutrition tells you to eat more of. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are never told when tofu and spinach meet inside your body. They don't just add up nutritionally, they react. And that reaction can quietly set the stage for one of the most common kidney problems in older adults: stone formation. Spinach is extremely high in oxalates. In fact, among leafy greens, it's one of the highest. Tofu, on the other hand, is rich in calcium. Separately, both foods can be beneficial in the right context. But together, they create a compound called calcium oxalate, a substance your body cannot easily dissolve or eliminate. Now, this isn't something that happens dramatically overnight. There's no immediate pain, no instant warning sign. Instead, these tiny crystals begin forming gradually like microscopic grains of sand. At first, your body may flush out some of them, but as kidney function naturally declines with age, sometimes dropping to 50% or less after 60, your ability to clear these crystals weakens. Over time, what starts as invisible particles can accumulate into something much more serious: kidney stones. And once those stones form, they don't just sit there quietly. They irritate tissue, block normal flow, and in some cases cause sharp, persistent pain that people often describe as one of the most intense experiences they've ever had. But the real danger isn't just the pain, it's the timeline, because this process can take months, even years, building silently while you continue repeating the same healthy meal, believing you're doing your body a favor. I once worked with a man in his mid-60s who followed what many would call a textbook perfect diet. He avoided processed foods, completely cooked at home every day, and ate tofu with vegetables, especially spinach, almost daily. He felt confident, disciplined, even proud of his routine. But over time, he started noticing a dull ache in his lower back. Nothing severe at first. Then came occasional discomfort when urinating. Still, he ignored it, assuming it was just part of aging. It wasn't until the pain became sharp and persistent that he finally went in for testing. The diagnosis was clear: kidney stones. When I explained how calcium oxalate forms and how his daily food combinations played a role, he sat quietly for a moment and said something that stayed with me. I thought I was doing everything right. And that's the pattern we keep seeing: not neglect, not carelessness, but misplaced trust. Because when something is labeled healthy, we stop questioning it. We repeat it. We build routines around it. And over time, those routines shape the internal environment of the body, sometimes in ways we never intended. From a scientific standpoint, this isn't speculation. Research has consistently shown that high oxalate intake, especially when paired with calcium-rich foods in the same meal, increases the risk of calcium oxalate crystallization in the urinary tract. And in aging populations where kidney filtration is already reduced, the likelihood of accumulation becomes significantly higher. But what makes this even more concerning is how invisible the early stages are. You don't feel crystals forming. You don't notice the gradual buildup. There's no alarm system telling you to stop. By the time symptoms appear, pain, difficulty urinating, or even infection, the process has already been underway for a long time. Now, I want you to pause and think for a moment. Have you ever combined foods simply because they were both labeled healthy? Have you ever trusted a combination without questioning how those ingredients might interact inside your body? Because this is where awareness becomes critical. Nutrition isn't just about individual foods, it's about interactions, chemistry, timing, context. And once you begin to see food this way, you realize that even the cleanest, most disciplined diet can carry hidden risks if the combinations aren't right. And yet, despite everything we've just uncovered, there's still something more dangerous, something far more common, far more overlooked, and far more damaging in the long run. In fact, it's a habit so routine, so deeply ingrained in daily eating, that most people don't even consider it a risk at all. It feels normal, it tastes familiar, and because of that, it continues unchecked day after day, year after year, placing silent pressure on your kidneys with every single bite. But knowing this alone is not enough, because there's another factor far more dangerous that most people completely overlook. And now we come to the mistake that concerns me the most. Not because it's rare, but because it's so common that almost everyone does it without thinking, even people who are extremely careful about their health. Let me ask you something honestly. When you eat tofu, do you dip it into soy sauce? Just a little for flavor, because if you do, what I'm about to explain could change the way you see that habit forever. Tofu has a very unique structure. Under a microscope, it looks like a sponge full of tiny pores that can absorb liquid instantly. The moment it touches soy sauce, it doesn't just coat the surface, it pulls the sodium deep inside. So even if your meal looks light, clean, and low in calories, what your body actually receives is a concentrated dose of salt hidden inside something you believe is healthy. And sodium doesn't stay passive in your body, it triggers a chain reaction. First, it causes your body to retain water, increasing the volume of fluid in your bloodstream. Then your blood pressure begins to rise. And as that pressure builds, your kidneys are forced to work harder, filtering excess sodium balancing fluids and trying to maintain stability. But here's the problem. Your kidneys don't get a break. This isn't a one-time overload. It's a repeated pattern, meal after meal, day after day. And over time, that constant pressure begins to wear them down. Clinical data shows that high sodium intake is directly linked to increased risk of hypertension, and hypertension is one of the leading causes of kidney failure worldwide. In fact, many patients don't realize their kidneys are under stress until their blood pressure has already been elevated for years. I once treated a patient who was incredibly disciplined. He avoided fast food, rarely ate sugar, and cooked most of his meals at home. On paper, his lifestyle looked ideal, but his kidney function kept declining, slowly but consistently. We reviewed everything, his meals, his habits, his routines, and then we noticed something small, something he never considered important. He dipped almost every meal into soy sauce, especially tofu. When I explained how sodium accumulates over time, he was shocked. He said, "But it's just a little each time." And that's exactly what makes it dangerous, because it's never about one meal. It's about repetition. Small amounts consistently, quietly building pressure inside your body until your kidneys can no longer keep up. What's even more concerning is how invisible this process is. You don't feel your blood pressure rising day by day. You don't notice your kidneys working harder. There's no immediate pain, no clear warning sign. Until one day, there is swelling, fatigue, changes in urination, and by then a significant portion of kidney function may already be compromised. This is why I often tell my patients something they don't expect to hear. It's not always the obvious bad foods that cause the most damage. It's the small, repeated habits we trust, the ones we never question, that slowly push the body toward imbalance. Now think about your own routine again. How many times have you reached for soy sauce without hesitation? How many times have you paired it with tofu, believing you are making a safe, healthy choice? If this feels familiar, you're not alone. In fact, most people watching this are doing exactly the same thing right now, without realizing the long-term cost. This one mistake alone can determine whether your kidneys fail in the next few years. And that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Because once you see it, once you understand how something so small can create such a big impact, you also gain the ability to change it. And that change might be the difference between your kidneys slowly wearing down or finally getting the relief they've needed for years. At the end of the day, I want you to understand something very important. Your kidneys are not fragile, but they are patient. They don't fail suddenly, they endure, they adapt, and they quietly carry the burden of your daily habits for years before they finally begin to break down. And that means you still have something incredibly valuable right now. Time to change the direction before it's too late. Because the truth is, nothing we talked about today requires extreme diets, expensive treatments, or complicated routines. It starts with awareness. It starts with small decisions, how you combine your food, how often you repeat certain habits, and whether you choose to listen to your body before it's forced to speak louder. If you've been eating tofu the same way for years, don't feel guilty. Most people never question these habits because no one ever explains the deeper effects. But now you know. And once you know, you have the power to make a different choice, one that reduces pressure on your kidneys instead of adding to it. Start simple. Pay attention to combinations. Avoid pairing foods that create unnecessary strain inside your body. Be mindful of hidden sodium. And most importantly, give your kidneys the support they need by not overloading them day after day. These are small adjustments, but over time, they can create a completely different outcome for your health. I've seen people in their 60s, even their 70s, begin to feel lighter, sleep better, and regain energy, not because of medication, but because they removed the silent stress their body had been carrying for years. That's the kind of change that doesn't just improve numbers on a test, it improves how you live your life every single day. And I want that for you. I truly do. Because good health is not about living longer at any cost. It's about living with clarity, independence, and the ability to enjoy your life without being controlled by illness. So if this video helped you see something you didn't realize before, take a moment right now and save it. Not just for yourself, but for someone you care about who might be making the same silent mistakes without knowing it. Sometimes one small piece of information shared at the right time can change the course of someone's health completely. And if you want to continue learning simple, practical ways to protect your kidneys and take control of your health, make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll be sharing more insights, more real-life cases, and more strategies that you can apply immediately without confusion, without overwhelm, and always grounded in what truly works for your body. Because your health is not something you fix overnight, it's something you build one decision at a time. And the choices you make today will shape how your body feels tomorrow, and for many years to come. So take care of yourself, stay aware, and remember, it's never too late to give your kidneys the support they've been quietly asking for.